and I hereby announce that we are starting the session of the Council for Collective Security. As tradition, I, as a presiding country leader, would like to first present my report and then we will go one by one. So let's start now. Friends, Russia has been presiding over the Collective Security Treaty Organization for a year, and we've been focusing our efforts on further advancing our strategic partnership with the CSTO partners, been maintaining friendly and frank dialogue on all issues which have to do with security. We have achieved results. The outcomes of our presidency this session, we have a number of documents and arrangements to harmonize and sign off. Final declaration and a statement on forming just and stable world order. We, of course, know that the COVID-19 pandemic has been hitting us hard, and our first priority has been fighting this pandemic, helping our healthcare systems to make it through, keeping up our economies. The CSTO members have succeeded in establishing very close cooperation tracks to fight the pandemic. We've been helping each other, supporting each other on the way. Russia supplied our allies with medical equipment, hardware, test kits, PPE. The CSTO countries have seen Russian medical professionals working hard to help the population. Now we are coordinating the supply of Russia's vaccine, the Sputnik V vaccine. We're also currently discussing the possibility of producing it locally in your countries. We have other vaccines as well. Epivac Corona is one of them. It has already been registered. Despite these difficult conditions, we've been keeping up with our priorities. We've been meeting all the deadlines and completing all the plans. We have had a number of meaningful meetings. We have the meetings of the Security Council's secretaries and foreign ministers. And for the first time in September in Moscow, we held the meeting of the defense ministries of the CSTO and the CIS and the SCO as well. They've all been there. And I hope that this extended format will become a new normal for us because it helps to better coordinate our efforts in defense area with our key partners. And we believe that it is very promising to let countries who would like to maintain consistent dialogue with the CSTO and give them an observer status. We'll continue the practice of military drills meant to shore up our military capabilities, enhancing combat effectiveness and our overall preparedness. In August in Russia, we held military exercises which brought together the military personnel from several countries. It was called Echelon 2020. And then in Belarus, we had the exercises, military exercises with Belarus. It was called the Undying Brotherhood. Lately, we've been having a lot of issues happening in the world. The conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, events in Belarus, which followed in the wake of the election. Belarus has been unprecedented pressure from abroad. Kyrgyzstan has been another point where we saw problems erupt. Russia has been doing everything we could in order to put an end to the bloodshed in Nagorno-Karabakh, finally putting end to the hostilities and starting the stabilization process. We succeeded doing that. We worked hard as part of the Minsk group, which brings together the three co-chairmen, Russia, France, and the US. Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia circulated a joint statement on the 9th of November. It's something which we are abiding by. Our peacekeeping forces have been sent and they have been already deployed in the conflict hit zone. Now, our officers are helping the people on the ground. We are helping with humanitarian issues, with the return of the refugees, helping to rebuild the infrastructure and take better care of the cultural heritage and burial sites. We are coordinating our efforts with Azerbaijan, with Armenia, and of course, we would like to see all of our partners chip in and help resolve the humanitarian problems which we see there today. We also are discussing possible cooperation with international organizations. And it is with much satisfaction that we see that the CSTO countries have continued fighting organized crime and terrorism. We have an ad hoc working group under the auspices of the Security Council secretaries, and it has been a success. We've been carrying out every necessary procedure, applying measures to stop militants coming from hotspots. We've been searching and eliminating any possible ways for terrorists to recruit new members and to do their criminal activities. We've been working hard to make sure that social networks is a safe place too. We have come up with our strategy for the years up to 2025. And of course, this year is marked by the 75th anniversary of our victory in the Second World War, and the CSTO country soldiers, they took part in the military parade, and we are thankful for the CSTO members and their support towards our actions. And we are doing our best in order to fight against any glorification of fascism and any attempts to twist the memory of what happened. And the UN General Assembly adopted a relevant resolution. We are thankful for supporting our initiative. We need to stand guard and protect the memory about the Second World War. Our country suffered a lot. We saved the world, and we paid a very high price for that. We do that not only to cherish the memory of those who fought that terrible enemy, but it is a clear signal that the CSTO stand together, stay strong, resolutely protecting peace and security. Colleagues have outlined the main tracks for our cooperation. And I hope that today we'll have a meaningful discussion on these issues and on other issues as well. Issues which are of mutual interest for the CSTO countries. Now, thank you for your attention, and I pass the floor over to the next speaker, and I hope we all are ready to continue. And let's follow Russia's alphabet from. And now I'll be giving the floor to Nikol Pashinyan.
Thank you, Mr. Putin, Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, dear Secretary General of the CSTO. I'm greeting you at today's meeting that is going to sum up the presidency of the Russian Federation in our organization. The priorities of the Russian presidency were aimed at the resolution of the topical goals for the CSTO and perfection of our cooperation, and we are grateful for the job done within this difficult period. I would also like to thank Stanislav Zas and the entire secretariat of the CSTO for the organization of today's meeting via video conference and for the work that has been done under the circumstances of the pandemic. And using this opportunity, I would also like to greet the interim president of the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, Alant Mamitov, who is participating in one of the meetings of our organization for the first time. Dear friends, the last 2 months for the Armenian people have were the period of the conflict with the Azerbaijan. My apologies, some technical issues. So Azerbaijan, supported by Turkey and terrorist mercenaries from the Middle Eastern countries, has started war against the Armenian people. As you are aware, with the mediation efforts from the Russian Federation, the war was stopped and the de-escalation measures were agreed. And it's been more than 3 weeks since the war has stopped. The Russian peacekeeping forces are in the conflict zone, but still today we have a number of urgent issues. First of all, it is the matter of exchange of the war prisoners and hostages and other detained persons and the bodies of the killed in action people and the missed in action people. These are definitely urgent matters. Armenia is ready to expedite its actions to move along this process and to make it more efficient. But at the same time, we must exclude any cases of violence against war prisoners and detainees and of humiliation of their dignity. Secondly, we are talking about the condition that would be able to allow people from Karabakh to return to their homes and to live there normally. They must be confident that they are safe there and they can go on living at their homeland. Dozens of thousands of the Artsakh people have returned to their homes, and we do everything possible to help them and to support them. Apart from that, we must take steps to preserve cultural and religious monuments of the Armenian people that are located in the areas that are occupied by Azerbaijani forces. And finally, we must establish regular work of transport. We must exclude any provocation and establish normal conditions for the infrastructure, for the functioning of infrastructure that is necessary for the people of Artsakh. All the measures I talked about, including unblocking of all the economical and transport ties within the region, are necessary to establish firm basis for the lengthy peace in the region. Dear colleagues, Russian peacekeeping forces that is based along the contact line in Nagorno-Karabakh, along the corridor that connects Artsakh and Armenia, is a guarantor of the peacekeeping and of safety in the region. And due to this, in this regard, I would like to emphasize the role of President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. All along these 44 days of war, we were in contact and we were discussing all the necessary measures to stop the bloodshed and to protect the people's lives. And still today, we stay in close contact and we work together with Mr. Putin to resolve such issues as rescuing people missed in action, exchange of the war prisoners, and exchange of the people killed in action. And in conclusion of my speech, I would like to congratulate Tajikistan with becoming chairman of CSTO. Armenia is ready to work together to implement the priorities of the Tajikistani presidency. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We know very well that Armenia, the Armenian people, has had to pass through a lot of suffering lately, and the leadership, the Prime Minister of Armenia, had to make very difficult and yet very necessary decisions in order to take better care of the people. And these decisions, they hurt a lot, but they were necessary, and it required a lot of courage on the part of the Prime Minister to make that move. And every one of us here understands that it took a lot of responsibility to make that choice, and it's really good that Prime Minister raised this responsibility. So now we need to support Prime Minister and his team in order to help the life to come back to normal, to help implement the arrangements and help those who find themselves in a difficult situation. And now I give the floor to the President of Belarus. Friends, the work of our organization today takes place amid very complicated background. The very system of international relations is under fire. Arms control regime is under fire. We see more and more confrontation rhetoric around. The world is once again on the brink of an uncontrolled arms race. We see that the most dangerous tendencies become more and more acute, and that is military confrontation between world centers of powers. We're very much concerned to see that the US and NATO are building up their capabilities on our borders. First and foremost, I mean those additional troops which the US sent to Poland, as well as the plans which are there to build more infrastructure, military infrastructure. We also see that there are more systemic work in this country, Poland, and in the Baltic states as well. At the same time, not only Belarus sees its national interest in the crosshairs. No, NATO has already announced that it's working on a new strategic concept framework, and I think we all know who will be the main target of that strategy. On a separate notice, we've been seeing a lot of sanctions lately, this new way of doing international relations, which normally are used only to solve some critical issues of security and peace, now have become, well, an everyday trend, something ordinary. At the same time, we are fighting the pandemic. It has complicated the way we communicate, and social conflicts have become more acute as well. And I mean the demonstrations and violent rallies across the world. Now we also see that media trying to say that this is not a coincidence. The world order is turning into a controlled chaos. Clearly, we see that this is nothing but an orchestrated activity by some global players who do not care for anyone's interests, including the interests of their own people. We know the example. Unprecedented violent rallies in Europe and the US. That's what I'm talking about. Until late, they've been thought to be the paragons of democracy. Now we see they for what they are. The balance between civil freedoms and national security hasn't been found in the West, and probably that is the reason why we see such efforts to impose high-handedly this double standard on us. Western countries have been cracking down on the protest, and unpopular decisions have been heralded as objective necessity. On the other hand, other countries who are trying to ensure consistent growth and development, trying to maintain peace, are being portrayed as dictatorships and despotism, even though these measures are way less strict and severe than we see in the Western countries. In these new conditions, we see a lot of efforts to manipulate people, to apply hybrid warfare means. Color revolutions is one of them. But these are no color revolutions. These are just rebellions. That is why Belarus in 2020 has been under so much pressure. That pressure is interference, direct and unbridled interference, which happens by means of stirring up the society. They say we need to change our law and our social priorities, otherwise we will be under sanctions. They threaten us with sanctions, with undermining our economy and changing the mindset. There is no doubt that peace and security of Belarus, its integrity is under fire. They say we need to change our law and our social priorities, and they're doing that in a very cynical way. They are not trying to hide it. They're not saying it's democracy or diplomacy. Of special notice is this unbridled rhetoric from Poland and the Baltic countries. Their assaults on Belarus. They are pursuing their own interests. They're trying to make them more important and more meaningful for the EU. They are acting dishonestly. And I hope that ordinary people in these neighboring countries would hear what their politicians are doing. I think many now understand that the world will never come back to what it used to be a year or two ago. And it will never be what we want it to be. There are a lot of conflicts around. We've been seeing this pandemic sweeping all over us, and we'll have to find a way to grow and prosper, to bring up our children, to find ways to find joy. We will be doing our best to keep the integrity and keep away from the brink of catastrophe. Colleagues, today, given the many threats and challenges that we're faced with, we need not only to maintain our cooperation as it used to be, we need to build up our capabilities. Against this background, it is way more important to stand together as allies. The CSTO should demonstrate its ability to work hard, intensively, in information, political, military areas, and we need to be an effective instrument against extremism and terrorism, illegal drug trafficking. We need to be proactive, and we need to avert any social conflicts. We need not only to be quick in circling out new challenges, we need to respond to them promptly. We need to stand closely in terms of collective response to any threats and challenges. And I think that we will succeed. And I would like to highlight the fact that we still continue holding our meetings, even though we do that online. The situation requires us to meet face to face. Given the recent events, we need to discuss the prospects for our work so that nothing of what we have been seeing lately will happen anywhere else. There is no reason to pacify ourselves, to say that everything's going to be okay. And I hope you understand that. So let's agree on a date and let's meet in a broader circle, not only the CSTO members, but as just Vladimir Putin said, there should be our partners and there should be like-minded nations who believe that there are these threats and challenges that we need to face together. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is true Belarus has faced an unprecedented situation. It's something which we are very much concerned about, and when we see something like that happening, it's nothing good. Very often, some tensions may arise in the midst of an election race prior to the election, but we've seen how it's been happening in Belarus. We know what has been happening in the United States. So it's always quite concerning. But now we see that there has been a lot of interference. They're supporting some political forces. And what I believe is right is to give the people an opportunity to solve their own problems, to find accord. We know what happened in the Arab countries. There was that Arab Spring, and we know the consequences. Not to speak about other color revolutions. We know the consequences. Of course, those who started all that say that they had good intentions, but good intentions, well, they paved the way to hell. The way to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's what interference in the domestic affairs of other states is. I hope that the people of Belarus will have enough political wisdom and maturity to avoid any harsh decisions, and the people of Belarus will find common ground, will solve all these problems in the society on their own, without any pressure, without any interference. I have no doubt that this will happen, given the political experience of the leader of Belarus. And I would like to give the floor to the leader of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart, and please, I give you the floor.
Dear heads of the delegation, dear colleagues, dear Secretary General of the CSTO, participants of the meeting, first of all, I would like to express the gratitude to the chairman of today's session, dear Mr. Vladimir Putin, for the organization of this event. I would also like to mention the high professionalism of the Russian presidency and the CSTO. Russian presidency consolidated the cooperation along all the lines, all the tracks of our cooperation. It consolidated the potential and authority of our organization. And using this opportunity, I would like to congratulate President of Tajikistan, dear Mr. Emomali Rahmon, with future presidency in CSTO. And I wish our Tajik counterparts fruitful work. So we are meeting with the difficult time in the region and in the world in general. The situation is further worsened by the conflicts between certain states. And against this background, we should commend the facilitation efforts by President Vladimir Putin to stop war in Nagorno-Karabakh. The agreement was reached with the active participation of Russia. I think this agreement is the only right solution in the critical situation that happened there. And this agreement will help to establish long-term peace in the region. I think it was a historical agreement. Next, the pandemic of COVID-19 came as a global shock to the political situation and economy in all the countries. And this situation is further worsened by the trade wars and economical sanctions. Of more concern is the growth of new global challenges and threats due to extremism and terrorism, drug trafficking, cyber crimes, and illegal migration. Under this condition, the role of our organization is increasing as a working functional mechanism of interstate cooperation in the name of strengthening peace, consolidating peace for safety and security in our bigger region. And using this opportunity, I would like to express my gratitude to you, Mr. Putin, for supporting us in overcoming the pandemic. And following our agreement, in the near future in Kazakhstan, we're going to build a factory to manufacture Russian vaccine. Dear colleagues in Kazakhstan, a new electoral campaign started on 10th of February 2021. We are going to elect members of the lower chamber of the parliament and the local government, and the election are going to take place within these dates. All the political forces have enough time to prepare. This year, we have implemented a package of unprecedented democratic reforms. They are aimed at the development of the multi-party system and increase of competition. And in particular, we have adopted a law to establish the institute of the parliamentary opposition, and we have a quota for the women and youth in the parliament. We are going to have transparent and fair elections. We hope to have support from our partners. We expect to see observers from your states and also from the Parliamentary Assembly of the CIS and of course from CSTO. Dear colleagues, our agenda is quite busy. We are going to consider a wide range of matters that are important to deepen our collaboration, and we are going to adopt a number of important documents to make our collaboration more effective and to further improve our safety and security. And the main documents of this session are going to be the declaration of the CSTO and the statement on the establishing of fair and sustainable world order. And these documents are going to demonstrate our mutual adherence to further strengthening of international dialogue and cooperation to resolve regional and international issues. Participation in the activities of the CSTO is one of the priorities of the foreign policies of Kazakhstan. And I'm very glad to see that CSTO has become a significant player in the international policies and is playing an important role in establishing security in the larger part of the Eurasian continent. And as before, we are ready to work with our partners to find efficient solutions to establish safety, security, and prosperity of our peoples. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much for your speech. We are confident that Kazakhstan is going to hold its important event, parliamentary elections on the 10th of January of the next year. I would like to mention also that there are always difficulties in every country. We also face certain difficulties, but the political stability that was created under the first president and is now actively and efficiently supported by the sitting president, by you, I would like to say that that's an achievement. That's a big achievement of Kazakhstan, consolidation of Kazakhstan governance and the stability inside the country. And it allows to overcome the difficulties that the entire world is facing now. And so it allows to fight, to combat the coronavirus pandemic effectively and to constantly increase tempo of growth in the economics and in political arena. We wish you all the best, and I'm sure we are going to have a lot of conversation before this important event that you're going to have, and we're going to discuss many important matters. Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to the interim president of the Republic of Kyrgyzstan, Talant Mamitov, please.
Heads of delegations, members of the session, I'd like to seize this opportunity and welcome you wholeheartedly, as well as I would like to extend my gratitude to President Putin for a very thorough organization of this session, this online session. Our today's meeting takes place amid a very difficult background. The COVID-19 pandemic has become the biggest problem for the whole of humanity. It has been dealing heavy blows to our healthcare and our economies, global economy as well. It has caused a lot of humanitarian social issues, first and foremost for developing countries, and Kyrgyzstan is one of them. We make no secret of that. At the same time, despite all these difficulties, we have been delivering on all our CSTO obligations. We absolutely support every initiative which is there to support regional and international security, reinforcing our potential in general. And also, now I'd like to focus my speech on the situation in our country. I think that one of the important factors in the context of our growth and development will be the fact that we need to continue maintaining peace and security in the CSTO regions in Central Asia. I won't give you any unnecessary details because I think you are well aware of the situation as it was and as it is today. But now our key priority is to deliver on what our people want. We want as well to right the wrongs which were made by previous authorities, previous leadership. Right now, political and social situation has come back to normal. Kyrgyzstan is fully committed to all its international obligations. We are abiding by all bilateral and multilateral agreements which we've entered. Our authorities continue operating as usual. Since January the 10th, 2020, we will be holding election to choose our new leader. And colleagues, I want to assure you that the government will do its best in order to have fair and transparent election. This is something which we believe is very important to further stabilize the situation in the country. And in that context, I'd like to note that the heads of the CSTO have a very principled position supporting us on the way. And we are very thankful for this support at the time when it was especially hard for us. Colleagues, today we need to accept the fact that the world is changing. We've been seeing a lot of differences and contradictions in global economy, which has made the problems that we had more acute. This has caused a lot of problems in the context of environmental protection and broad use of natural resources, and all this has been a huge problem for developing economies. Social, political instability in some parts of the world is a huge threat for the security in the world. World needs new approaches. We need to act now. We need to do that in new ways. And as never before, the CSTO now needs to coordinate every step. Today, the CSTO has what it takes to solve these problems, ensure regional and global stability and security. And I would like to highlight the role of Russia in the CSTO that helps to stabilize the situation, as it happened in the Caucasus region and other regions where we see some issues persist. Russia's presidency and Russia's actions this year, 2020, has helped to reinforce the CSTO and has outlined our path for the immediate future. Colleagues, this year, 2020, is special for us because this year we have celebrated the 75th anniversary of our victory in World War II. And this very victory brought our peoples together and showed us where to go further on after the war ended. Of course, we suffered great losses, and our people know how valuable friendship is, how important it is to come to others' rescue. That is why we cooperate so closely within the CSTO and other organizations. Our history, we share it. Historically, we've been standing shoulder to shoulder, and that is one of the pillars of the CSTO. In conclusion, I would like to thank President Putin of Russia, President of Kazakhstan, Mr. Tokayev, and other partners for all the support and help which you've been giving our country so that we could fight more successfully this pandemic. The results show that only together we can overcome these true hardship, just like it used to be and just like it will be. And I wish you to stay in good health and wish you all the success in your work.
Dear Mr. Namitap, I think I will express the general opinion when I say that we followed with concern the events in Kyrgyzstan, and I would like to express satisfaction with the fact that the situation has stabilized, and we also follow with a lot of attention your position on the implementation of international obligations, under international agreements. And we are happy to state that within EU, Kyrgyzstan is changing its position, and within CSTO, it is very important. And also for the stability in Kyrgyzstan also. And you know that in bilateral way, Russia is doing a lot to support Kyrgyz economy and social infrastructure. I'm talking about a fund of hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm talking about health organizations support with the sanitary control at the borders. And we come from the assumption that we will work together, that we will continue working together in the future. But of course, we won't be able to do that. We won't be able to succeed if there is no stability inside the country. So we are also interested to see the elections for the statutory bodies, and the presidential elections were held at the high level, according to the Constitution, to all the relations of the constitutions, and we are going to support you to help you to achieve further stabilization and efficiency along all the lines that are talked about. Please, now the floor is given to the President of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahman. Thank you, Mr. Putin, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Vladimir Putin, for organizing this session. I would also like to mention the efforts of the Russian side on implementing the stability in our organization in these difficult times. During this year, the world has faced an unprecedented challenge, unprecedented threat. The COVID-19 pandemic led to the global recession and to the difficulties in social area and an economy. It has also impacted and affected our life, and all the countries of the world had to reconsider its plans and its initiatives. And the social and financial and economical crisis that was conditioned by the pandemic also affected the growth of the world economy. It led to the growth of the unemployment level, and it led to the problems in security as well. And we can see other global threats such as terrorism and radicalism and extremism are growing, and organized crime as well, including the illegal drug trafficking. Various terrorist and extremist organizations didn't renounce from their destructive intentions, and they continue to be active in various regions of the world, including in the region close to the CSTO member states. In this vein, we are concerned when we are following the situation in Afghanistan, including its northeastern region. All these circumstances require us to our reaction, because we need to protect safety inside the CSTO countries. Dear colleagues, in the context of this difficult and tense situation in the world, the increase of the CSTO potential is important so that we could resist to the threats and challenges to our security. And after today's session, Tajikistan is going to become the president of the CSTO. We are going to continue to work along the lines of establishing safety and security and stable lives of our peoples. And in this context, we have chosen a number of measures that are going to help us to reach these goals. And Tajikistan is relying to get support from its partners to reach these goals. I would also like to mention the importance of the decisions that are going to be taken today, because we are covering a lot of topical issues, and it is going to provide and give us stability and security in our region. And I would like to say that we should work together to solve all the goals that we have in front of us, and it is going to become an additional impetus to allow our organization to grow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I wish you all the best in your presidency. I'd like to note the very special role of Tajikistan as it happens to fight off this evil coming from neighboring countries, terrorists, drugs. Tajikistan is doing a lot of very positive work and will continue standing by you, helping you through our capabilities. And I mean the military component of our army, which is in Tajikistan, to help fight this threat. Colleagues, thank you very much for your introductory remarks. Our work further on will take place behind closed doors. Now we'll be stopping this open part of our conversation, and now we will be delivering more details on some of the issues which have been outlined